Hey, NewsNation's Chris Cuomo here. Now, on our show, I've made a commitment to you that we're going to give you the stories that matter. We're going to give it to you straight. We're also going to stay on those stories because that is rare in this business. It's rare in this world. That's where this podcast comes in. Let's get after it. We need to recognize that we can be dangerously self-interested here in America. 2 days ago, an earthquake in Taiwan killed 9 people that we know of so far, injured over 900, triggered massive mudslides. Buildings looked like the Tower of Pisa all over the place. Barely gets a mention. I didn't even touch it because I knew nobody would watch. A chair moves in New York City today from a tremor, and Twitter explodes with frantic curiosity. Now, of course, it matters more. Everything matters more when it happens to you. But it's a reminder that we need to be about things that are bigger than ourselves, especially here, especially when it comes to controlling our political dynamic. The key is focusing on common concerns instead of constant confrontation. The same way so many people were asking, did you feel it? Are you okay? We could also discover that 70% of us want action on the southern border. You disagree on why we need action, who is to blame for why we need action, the right fix. But that common concern of wanting something done about it is enough to shift the onus from us hating each other back onto the established powers to do something about it instead of just dividing us. And this led me to observe something very interesting, how stubbornly we have been conditioned to cling to the game of party politics and division. Happened last night. So I make this argument about the state of play with the United States and Israel. Goes viral. That's good, right? Even though it comes with a lot of controversy because it's a controversial thing. The point is to provide food for thought and to get reach, specifically for our leaders. But please understand this. For all the headlines and all the nonsense about my motivations, I directed those comments at the President and the Secretary of State to help them correct course, not to vilify them. I know some people liked what I had to say because it seemed bad for Biden and Blinken and all the other reindeer. But that's just more of the game. The whole point is that something as important as Iran and its poison pals trying to end Israel, as bad as the suffering in Gaza, you can't treat that like another political football with false accommodations and appeasement of the reality. Bring the hostages back. That's what you demand of someone who stole people. You, the terrorists who stole them. And Tony Blinken knows better than to suggest Israel may be likened to Hamas if it doesn't change course. You talk about BS, false equivalency. This is too important for that kind of posing. This is just common sense, and sometimes common sense gets clouded by other agendas. And that goes for both sides, okay? There's way too much reluctance by too many of us to see that. You only see the flaws in the other side. Your side's fine. You got that eagle eye for them, though. Politics and media has become like a form of silly sports fanaticism instead of the serious work of improving society. You know what? My father led himself and our whole family, by extension, to commit himself to service was because of that, not to be powerful. For example, people complain to me a lot that former President Trump doesn't get a fair shake from the media. And then the other side says, every day I don't say he should be in prison for the rest of his life is a day I'm part of the problem. But let's look at his treatment. Those of you who say he didn't mean that Nazis are good people when he said they're good people on both sides in Charlottesville. He didn't mean to mock the reporter with his arm movements. He didn't mean to choose Putin over his own government in Finland. It's on and on and on. That it's all twisting the context just to make him look bad. Maybe so, sometimes. But he also gets criticized. Why? Because he lies, defies norms, and denies doing the same more than anyone I've ever covered at this level. And you know it. But to the extent that you believe he's treated unfairly, why is it okay with you that he does this?
press always asks me, don't I wish I were debating him? No, I wish we were in high school. I could take him behind the gym.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful. Now, he had all these examples in there of politicians on the left talking about violence. Fine. You want to play that game? Go ahead. But what am I doing in there? You got his people. Trumpers use this fight all the time, and it is complete BS, out of context. His people know it, and they do it because they know you won't care, and they'll just like the ownership of it, to make me look like a fool, to make someone testing him look weak, and that should bother you. So let's put aside the fact that I'd have to be some idiot to not understand what's in the First Amendment about peaceful assembly. And maybe I am an idiot. If that's what you want to believe, knock yourself out. But I know this. Anybody who took the time to remember what I was talking about that night knows it's a BS interpretation. We were in the middle of the Black Lives Matter movement and the related violence. The nation was on edge. The need for understanding of what was happening was real. And this is what I said. Too many see the protests as the problem. No, the problem is what forced your fellow Americans to the streets. People were all upset about how they were yelling and shouting in the police's faces and how angry they were, as if these black people and their allies should just sing some slave hymns and then go home. So then I said, show me where it says protesters are supposed to be polite and peaceful, because I can show you the outraged citizens are the ones who've made America what she is and led to any major milestones. Be honest, this isn't a tranquil time. They're not here to make power or you or me comfortable. They're here to yell, criticize, blame, and shame. You don't have to like it. But why not focus on remembering the reason for the pain that fuels their purpose? Looting, arson, violence. Now that's something else. Don't confuse that with protests or the people doing it with being protesters. There are bad people mixed in with good people in these situations. That's the truth. We're learning it in every city. And I said many times after that, as soon as you touch person or property, it's a riot, not a protest. And you are what you say you oppose, a purveyor of injustice. Now, does it sound like I was trying to say that you're not supposed to be peaceful when you protest? Of course not. And Trump knows it. His people know it. And you could if you weren't so anxious to believe the worst while demanding fairness for him. And by the way, I clearly give deference to the former president that he gives to no one, let alone me, because I respect the office. And frankly, I respect your interests and your ability to choose who you want to lead you more than I think about my own interest. And that's the truth. But be clear, you're demanding fairness for someone who's comfortable lying and twisting absolutely anything he can to play to his own advantage, just like he did to me, with full knowledge. And you can make some BS argument, well, that the way you said it, really kind of seemed like that. Well, then that's true about everything he said and been criticized for also. Because I sure as hell didn't mean what you and he and others want me to have meant, and you know it. So if that's okay with you, then you got no business asking for better for Trump or anybody else. You see what I'm saying? And if it doesn't bother you, that's what bothers me, because it shows how poisoned we are by party over national loyalty. Washington said it in his farewell address. Avoid the parties, be a nation that is all. We can do better. And it ain't going to start with them. It's not going to start with the people in power because they benefit from all this BS. It's got to start with you and me. We don't have to be committed to the game. We can do better. Let's get after it. This is Chris Cuomo. Get my podcast, Let's Get After It, at newsnationnow.com or wherever you get podcasts.